For the somatic exercise, what you want to do is either close your eyes if you feel safe to do so, or if you want to keep your eyes open, lower your gaze and soften the muscles around your eyes so that all of your attention is going to go internally. Find a comfortable place to sit with your legs uncrossed, either on a chair or on the floor with back support. Make sure that your feet are both flat on the floor or at least touching the floor. Now, as your feet touch the floor, feel the outer surface of your feet and really attempt to bring in the sensory information from your feet, whether that be through your socks, shoes, the floor, or tile. Just really feel your feet on the floor and keep your attention on the sensory information touching your skin. Notice the temperature. Does it feel cool to touch? Or is it warm? Or is it just right? Is it hot? Really recognize the sensory information and place your attention on your feet touching the ground. If you get distracted, that's not a problem. Just bring your attention back to the sensory information down your feet. Is one foot easier to connect than the other? Or is it difficult to connect with one or both? Just feel the sensory information down your feet, touching the floor. And if your score was closer to a 10, be curious and notice what happens if you soften the pressure of your feet touching the floor. Just allow the contact point to soften. And again, if your attention drifts, just bring it right back. Notice what happens when you allow your touch to soften and your contact on the floor to soften. What happens to your feet and what happens to the rest of your body. Just play around with it, be curious, have an open mind. And if your score was closer to a 1, gently press your feet onto the floor and start to bring information from your body to your brain by gently pressing, bringing in some activation in those muscles of the feet. Keep pressing gently and also be curious as to what happens to your feet, the muscles in your feet, and what happens when you gently press your feet onto the floor. What happens to the rest of your body? If you feel disconnected with your feet, then simply just rub your feet back and forth and notice what happens. Rub them back and forth and do it as slow or speed it up. Listen to what your body is wanting to do. And just bring your attention back on that sensory information in your feet and check in with what happens to the rest of the body. And now we're going to shift your attention to the sensory input from the back of your leg, from the base of your pelvis, around your hamstrings, and around your sit bones. Place your attention on the contact point of your leg, behind your leg, your hamstrings, and your sit bones as it makes contact with whatever you're sitting on. You can notice the clothing, the feel of the chair or the floor, whatever you're sitting on. And again, if you're distracted, no problem. Just go back to the sensory information at the back of your leg and base of your pelvis. What's the temperature from that contact point? And are some areas easier or not easy to connect to? Is there any difference between the left side and the right side? Just allow your attention to stay in the back of your leg, the base of your pelvis. And if your score was closer to a 10, then be curious as to what happens if you just allow your weight to be supported by the chair. What does it feel like to soften the contact point between your chair or whatever you're sitting on and the back of your leg and sit bones? What happens if you just melt your weight onto the chair? What happens to the rest of your body? If your score was closer to a 1, then press your legs very gently onto the chair. Keep pressing and contracting your hamstrings very gently onto the chair and really start to push down and feel what it feels like to contract those muscles and bring energy into your body. Again, if you get distracted, just bring your attention back to that contact point, whether you're softening and allowing yourself to be supported, if your score was closer to a 10, or if you're pressing gently onto the chair. Just keep your attention on the contact point as you contract your hamstrings if you're upregulating. If for some reason it's difficult to connect to this area of your body, that's completely fine. What you can do is take your hands and rub the side of your legs with your hands with firm pressure to bring in sensory information on the side of your body. Just rub it a few times, do what you intuitively feel like to add more energy into your legs. Now let's shift your attention over onto your spine. How does your spine feel as you're supported by the back of your chair or whatever it is that you're leaning on? Just feel the area around your spine, around your skin, around your back. You can feel the clothing, the back of this chair, maybe a wall, maybe a headstand of your bed, whatever it is that you're leaning on. Feel your spine making contact with that object. And bring your attention back to this place if for some reason you get distracted. If your score was closer to a 10, then be curious and experiment to see what it feels like to soften your contact point from your back to the wall or the chair. What happens if you allowed support? What if you allowed the chair or the wall or whatever you're leaning on to support you? Can you soften and just melt into the supports? Can you trust the support of the wall behind you? And notice what happens to your spine and what happens to the rest of your body. What does it want to do now? If your score was closer to a 1, then lengthen your spine by moving away from your supports, just by a little bit to create space in between your vertebrae. Or you could imagine a string pulling the crown of your head up towards the ceiling. And notice your spine creating more space and being able to sit more upright. And as you do this, notice how you're feeling. What does it feel like to activate the postural muscles up your back, down your spine, as you imagine the crown of your head being pulled up towards the ceiling? What is happening in your body, in your spine, as you sit more upright? And again, one more time, bring your attention back to the contact point of your spine and see what happens once you've taken the action and either softened and allowed support, or stand up and activate your energy in your body and lengthen. And slowly come back. Open your eyes if they were closed, or bring yourself back into the present moment.